Right now you are surrounded by a code hidden in plain sight. Every thought, every breath, every emotion you carry is data written into the quantum field. Most people never notice it because they mistake the repetition of their lives for random chance. But nothing is random here. The field is reading you with absolute precision. The tragedy is that most people broadcast noise and then call it fate. What if you could finally see the code beneath the static? What if your life was not chaos, but an equation waiting for you to solve it? You've been living inside the quantum field every single moment of your life, not as an idea, not as a metaphor, but as a literal ocean of possibility surrounding and penetrating you right now. It does not care about your age, your job, your history. It does not even care about what you say you want. It is reading only one thing, your signal. And the signal you're sending is not the thoughts you speak out loud. It is the quiet pattern of your entire system. The way your heart beats when you think of money. The way your breath changes when someone speaks your name. The way your nervous system braces or softens without your permission. That is the hidden code. That is the language of the quantum field. Most people drift through this field as though blind, convinced that life is random. They tell themselves they're unlucky, cursed, blocked, or simply not chosen. But look closer. Their mornings are identical. Their inner dialogue has not changed in years. They rehearse scarcity even as they ask for abundance. They visualize love while feeling unworthy of it. They declare freedom while living like prisoners of their own nervous system. And then they call the mirror fate. This is not fate. This is feedback. The field is not punishing them. It is precise. It is reading their incoherence and reflecting it back like static on a radio dial. Think of your own life for a moment. How many times have you said you're ready for change, but secretly doubted it? How many times have you written goals but felt a knot in your stomach while writing them? How many times have you imagined a new reality but kept rehearsing the emotions of the old one? This is not weakness. It is simply the hidden code running by default. You can't stop broadcasting. You can only choose what you broadcast. And until you learn to broadcast coherently, the field will mirror back the strongest frequency, which, for most people, is fear. Quantum physics calls it superposition. Every outcome you can imagine already exists as a wave of probability. None of them are in the future. They are all here, right now, like overlapping tracks on a record. But here is the catch. The wave does not collapse into a fixed event until an observer measures it. In your life, you are that observer. Every thought, every emotion, every action is a measurement, and a measurement collapses a timeline. This is not philosophy. This is physics, but the observer is not only your conscious mind. It is your subconscious, your heart, your body, your habits. You can think affirmations all day long, but if your nervous system is still bracing for loss, the field collapses a timeline of loss. You can visualize abundance every night, but if your emotions are still rehearsing scarcity, the field collapses scarcity. You can say, "I am loved," but if your heart is still armored, the field mirrors distance. It is not cruel, it is precise. This is the hidden code. The field listens to the integrated signal, not the surface noise. Thoughts alone are a whisper, feelings alone are a hum, actions alone are a gesture. But when they converge, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions hum together, the signal becomes coherent, like a laser beam. And a coherent signal collapses reality faster than you can explain it. This is why coincidences appear. This is why things sometimes magically happen when you stop forcing. You've unknowingly tuned into the code, but why do so few people realize this? Because the code hides in simplicity. The human mind is addicted to complication. We want rituals, formulas, 30-day challenges, perfect affirmations. We don't trust that something so subtle, so ordinary could move reality. We're conditioned to believe that struggle equals worth. So we pile on more effort, more noise, more static, and then wonder why the field stays silent. Let this land for a moment. What if nothing in your life has been random? What if the field has been faithfully mirroring your strongest signal for years? What if every accident, every delay, every almost but not quite was the field translating your unconscious broadcast? And what if by changing the broadcast, the script could change without struggle? Breathe into that question, because that's where the shift begins. Here is where almost everyone falls into the same trap. They mistake the quantum field for a battlefield. They believe they can overpower reality with effort, force, or control. They repeat affirmations like mantras carved into stone, trying to shout over the code their body is already transmitting. They visualize outcomes they secretly doubt, forcing their imagination to paint pictures their nervous system immediately erases. They chase abundance while vibrating in lack. They rehearse love while carrying unworthiness. And then, when nothing changes, they call the field cruel or indifferent. But the truth is harsher and simpler. The field is not cruel and it is not indifferent. It is precise. The mistake is believing that surface effort can cancel out deep incoherence. Imagine a radio tuned to static. You can scream music into the air all you want, but until you adjust the dial, the station does not change. That's what most people do. They keep screaming louder, working harder, stacking more rituals, chasing more techniques, as if sheer volume can force the field to comply. But quantum mechanics doesn't bend to volume. It bends to clarity. Think about it. When was the last time you wanted something so badly that you gripped it, obsessed over it, checked for signs, demanded results, and the more you tried, the further it slipped away? That wasn't punishment. That was physics. The observer effect reveals that the act of observing collapses possibility into form. But if you observe with fear, with doubt, with lack, you collapse the wrong timeline. You don't get what you want. You get what you are, and this is the invisible loop that keeps people trapped. They want change, but they approach it with the same frequency they're desperate to escape. They think control will deliver freedom. They think force will deliver flow. They think repetition will deliver coherence. But in the language of the quantum, forcing is friction, and friction doesn't move you forward. It keeps you stuck. Pause and reflect. Where in your life are you trying to force outcomes right now? Where are you micromanaging reality, holding the steering wheel so tightly that you've forgotten how to let the car move? Where are you mistaking your desperate grip for progress? Because here lies the hidden error. The more you chase, the louder you scream, the harder you grip. The clearer the field hears your static. And static does not collapse into clarity. It collapses into repetition. If the error is trying to overpower the field with force, then the way forward must be something entirely different. The hidden code of the quantum field does not respond to volume, but to coherence. It does not bend for struggle, but it reflects alignment with absolute precision. The shift begins not when you add more layers of effort, but when you begin stripping them away, until only the clear signal remains. The first key is awareness. You cannot change a code you refuse to see. Begin noticing the silent broadcast you are already sending. How does your body react when you think about money? How does your chest feel when you imagine love? How does your breath change when you picture the future? These are not small details. They are measurements. They are the way your subconscious collapses probability into form without your permission. By observing them without judgment, you begin to interrupt the old broadcast. The second key is coherence. This is the place where thought, feeling, and action begin to harmonize instead of contradict each other. When you think of abundance, let your body feel it. When you imagine love, let your heart soften instead of brace. When you choose freedom, let your actions reflect trust, not control. This is not about perfection. It is about alignment. Even brief moments of coherence send a signal strong enough to bend probability. And the third key is embodiment. The field does not listen to ideas. It listens to frequency. Frequency is carried in the body, in the way you breathe, walk, eat, speak. To embody means to live as though the timeline you desire has already collapsed into being. Not someday, not later, now. It means broadcasting the signal of arrival instead of waiting. And the paradox is simple. The less you wait, the faster it arrives. Think of it like tuning a radio dial. You do not demand the station. You do not beg for it to play your song. You simply tune until the static fades, until the signal is clear. That's all the field requires of you. Coherence is tuning. Alignment is tuning. Embodiment is tuning. And when the station comes through, you realize it was always there. The hidden code was never locked. You simply had to match it. But here is where most people hesitate. They hear words like awareness, coherence, embodiment, and they nod in agreement. But deep down they wonder, what does that actually look like for me? How do I know if I'm transmitting the wrong code? The truth is, you don't have to wonder. Look at your life right now. What keeps repeating? What patterns refuse to dissolve? What doors remain closed no matter how hard you knock? That repetition is the signature of your current code. The field is not ignoring you. It is obeying you with mathematical precision. And so the question becomes sharper. How many times have you collapsed the same future without realizing it? How many mornings have you stepped into a loop, observing from fear, collapsing scarcity, reinforcing the very identity you said you wanted to escape? How many times have you mistaken the static for destiny? The code does not lie. The code does not bend. It only mirrors. And that is why the discomfort grows louder each year. It is the pressure of a field waiting for you to shift the signal. Because until you do, tomorrow cannot help but look like yesterday. Think about this carefully. If every thought is a measurement, then every thought is collapsing a timeline. If every emotion is a signal, then every emotion is writing the script of your future. If every action is an observation, then every action is reinforcing the draft you are already living, which means that the code is not distant. It is here, alive, breathing with you, shaping probabilities in real time. You are never neutral. You are always transmitting. You are always collapsing. You are always writing. So here is the urgency. You cannot stop the field from reading you. You can only choose whether the broadcast is unconscious or deliberate. You can keep sending noise, collapsing the same old story, rehearsing the same tired role. Or you can begin tuning, aligning, embodying, and collapsing a new one. Ask yourself this now. If the field is a mirror, what exactly have you been showing it? If the field is a translator, what language have you been speaking? If the field is a code, what sequence have you been writing into it every day? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already fluent. The only question is whether you are fluent in scarcity or in abundance, in fear or in trust, in repetition or in creation. And the moment you decide to shift fluency, the entire field begins to respond. Pause here. Let that sink in. This isn't about effort. This isn't about forcing. It's about precision. It's about alignment. It's about realizing that the hidden code was never locked outside of you. It has always been pulsing from within you, and here is the turning point, the moment where the illusion finally cracks. You begin to see that the hidden code of the quantum field was never outside of you, never locked away, never controlled by others. It was always inside you, written into your biology, into your thoughts, into the quiet rhythm of your heart. The field has been listening faithfully every second. Not once has it ignored you. Not once has it failed to mirror you. Every outcome you have lived has been the proof. The old you wanted to believe reality was random. That way the pain could be explained away. That way the repetition could be blamed on chance. But randomness cannot repeat with such precision. The argument falls apart the moment you step back and notice the patterns. How is it that you always attract the same kind of struggle? How is it that the same lesson keeps appearing in new forms? How is it that every time you think you've escaped, the loop begins again? That is not chaos. That is the code quantum physics shows us why. A particle exists in infinite states until observed. The wave function collapses the moment it meets a signal strong enough to define it. And in your life, you are the observer. But here is the truth that most refuse to face. It is not just your conscious mind observing. It is your subconscious, your emotions, your nervous system, all transmitting at once. That is the signal the field reads. That is the code being written. Which means every loop you've ever repeated was not fate. It was your strongest frequency collapsing reality around you. And now you stand at the edge of this realization. The old code is fading. You feel it in the restlessness, in the discomfort, in the heaviness that no longer fits. That weight is not punishment. It is collapse. It is the old signal dissolving, losing coherence, unable to hold form any longer. The field is waiting for the new signal, the new script, the new frequency only you can broadcast. So let me ask you directly, will you keep trying to revive the old code, playing the same role until the curtain falls? Or will you release it, let it collapse, and finally transmit the clarity that has been buried under static? This is not a philosophical question. It is physics. The wave will collapse either way. The only choice you have is which signal will define it. This is the inevitability of the climax. The code is not random. It never was. The script is already collapsing. The only thing left to decide is whether you will keep observing through fear or begin observing through coherence. And the moment you choose coherence, the entire field bends. The hidden code responds, and reality reshapes itself before your eyes. Now we arrive at the place where everything comes together. The patterns you thought were random, the struggles you believed were accidents, the delays you called bad luck, none of them were mistakes. They were mirrors. They were the quantum field responding with absolute precision to the code you were transmitting all along. Every repeated cycle, every echo of the past, every closed door, they were not punishments, they were confirmations. Proof that the field does not lie, proof that reality bends only to coherence, proof that you are never ignored. This is the truth most people spend their entire lives trying not to face. If reality is repeating, it is not because you are cursed. It is because you are coherent with the wrong code. And the more you resist this, the heavier life feels. Because resistance itself is still a signal. The field mirrors even your struggle against the field. That is why loops can last for years. That is why people live entire decades repeating a story they swore they wanted to escape. Not because they were denied, not because they were unworthy, but because they never changed the code. So what does it mean for you right now? It means that the hidden code of the quantum field has never been locked against you. It is alive in your body, pulsing through your nervous system, waiting for you to become conscious of it. It means that every thought you send, every emotion you rehearse, every action you take is not just a choice, it is a measurement. And measurement collapses possibility into form. Every moment you are collapsing a timeline. The only question is, which one? Think about your life like a script written on endless pages. All of them already exist. Success and failure, love and loneliness, freedom and limitation, health and decay. Each page is real, alive in the field, waiting for the observer to choose. But here is the paradox. You don't choose with words. You choose with frequency. You collapse the page with the signal of your being, not the noise of your surface thoughts. That is the hidden code. And maybe you've already felt it without realizing. Those rare moments when something aligned perfectly, when the right person appeared at the right time, when an opportunity unfolded without effort, when clarity struck in a single breath. That was not coincidence. That was coherence. That was the field responding instantly to a clear signal. The code never stopped working. You just stopped noticing it. Now the invitation is simple, but not easy, to become deliberate. To stop collapsing the timelines you don't want. To stop transmitting static. To stop calling chaos what is really precision. And to begin broadcasting clarity. Not someday, not later, not after conditions change, but now. Because the field is not waiting, it is listening. And the signal you send in this very moment is already collapsing tomorrow. So pause here. Ask yourself, what frequency have you been carrying without noticing? What emotion have you been rehearsing every day? What story have you been replaying so consistently that the field has no choice but to mirror it? And then ask the question that matters even more. What signal will you choose to broadcast now? If you're ready to shift, declare it. Choose one word that captures the code you want to embody. Trust, freedom, abundance, arrival, coherence. Write it in the comments. Speak it into the silence. Let the field hear it. Because when you name it, you anchor it. And when you anchor it, the signal sharpens. That is how the hidden code begins to respond. And if this message has resonated, if something inside you has stirred, if you feel the weight of the old code starting to dissolve, then take this step with me. Subscribe to this channel, not for numbers, not for algorithms, but because coherence amplifies when many hold the same frequency together. The more people tune into this awareness, the stronger the signal becomes for all of us. That is how the field responds collectively. It mirrors the unified code of many. So let me leave you with this final question, one you cannot unhear. If reality is nothing more than the hidden code of your frequency, then what code are you choosing to transmit from this moment on? The old one, written in static and repetition? Or the new one, alive, coherent, unstoppable, already waiting for you in the field? The quantum does not hesitate. The wave will collapse. The only variable is your signal, and your signal begins now.